Excellent. So welcome to the pre-board meeting, Finance Committee meeting. This is the meeting that the board had discussed having each month to look at some of the common documents that are being approved. You should be seeing right now the treasurer's report on your screen. Yep. That's good. I know these are also in your board packet, but I have them kind of set up to go this time. And Charlene is on the line, so if there's questions about the treasurer's report, if there's other parts that you want to see, I can make it a little bit bigger, and I can scroll down through, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about the treasurer's report.
$1,802. Cash balance.
And if there's no,
that's the cash balance as of January 31st.
That's correct.
I'm just matching it up to. Oh, okay. No, I'm looking in the wrong place. I'm looking for it on the drive.
And then you can see your bank balances across your accounts there, and you can see there's some outstanding checks. That's why it's in red. But it shows that your bank balances match your cash balance.
Just an annoying question. So that's not in the packet folder. That's in Finance Committee folder?
No, it should be in the board packets, and it's in the separate folder. I put all the financials in a separate folder inside your March 8th board packet folder, Tom.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having a. It was that. It was.
Because I'm pulling them directly out of the board folder.
Yeah, no, I got it. Okay.
We can come back.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure what I had was what you have. That's fine.
Yeah, there's only one, and I'm pulling the documents right out of your folks' folder.
Okay.
I will jump over. I also have the cash flow geared up, ready for folks to look at. I can make it bigger, but then it squeezes the page.
That's fine.
Showing anything to note on the cash flow for the board?
Just that future months for state aid have been adjusted to include 100%. Hopefully in April, May, and June that continues, but we've been promised and have received as of March 3rd all the 20% that was withheld except for the BOE's aid payment, which will go to their board, and they said they would release it after their board meeting.
Okay, so they
have it, but they bring it to the board first, I guess.
Right. So the biggest change on this one is what we're ending up in June, right?
Yes, because I've adjusted all the state aid payments and kind of looked forward. So this is probably a better reflection of where I think we're going to be June 30th.
Yeah. Yeah, if you compare it to like November, it's.
Yeah. I mean, it might be a little less depending if we get the smart bond money, the 191. We might not have that. I still have to go in and change the reporting for that. They didn't like the way I did it. And then I think I have your June state aid payments, and sometimes we don't get those till July or August. So it could be 800,000 less, but we're working on it. So we're trying to get our cash flow in as quickly as possible. I'll keep you updated on those. So.
Right. So the yellow highlights are finalized numbers. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any questions on the cash flow for Charlene?
No. This is a great report, though. Thanks again for this, because this is a wonderful snapshot of what we're looking at. A lot better than what it was.
I agree. So revenue status was one of the other ones that we had said we would try to look at.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to see it by, and again, these are in your folder, but if you're looking to see it by code as opposed to any other way, you can see where we are. I can make that one a little bit bigger, sorry.
So this is revenue, not cash. So this
Right.
is more towards your fund balance, and it's also budget to actual. So it shows you what you've earned to date. So you know, this is, I mean, it's important to track your cash, obviously, but your financial statements are on an accrual basis, which is revenue and expenditures. So.
Right.
Any questions on?
So just so I'm clear on what we're looking at here, the foundation aid of the 5 million listed there, and then the unearned revenue 4 million. The numbers in between there are what we've earned of that 5 million so far.
Right. A lot of the foundation aid doesn't come till the end of the year.
Till the end of the year. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You get your excess cost aid, you get your DLT, but your foundation aid usually comes in at the end.
Gotcha. Okay.
Even your transportation aid, your building aid, those all come in the end. So all that money, they wait to the last minute to give it to you.
Yeah, and a good example of that is that on the 3rd of March, Charlene, we got notification of our final $9,000 in payment for last year's pre-K grant. So that's how far behind payments are on some of these things.
Yeah, well, that was the 20% that they withheld. We would have had it all in January if they hadn't withheld the 20%. So
Gotcha.
that one comes in, depending on when you get your final reports in, but that usually comes in, the final payment comes in usually in January. So.
Other questions on the revenue status report?
Not by me. Anyone else?
One thing you're going to see different on next month's report is I'm going to break out of the foundation aid, the CARES Act money, because the governor really did reduce your foundation aid by the federal funding. So I am going to reduce that foundation aid number, and I'm going to put in, because it has to be, the CARES Act funding has to be reported in a different account code in 4286, which is federal funding. So I am going to fix that for you and reduce your foundation aid and increase your federal budget by that same amount. And that way you'll be able to see we've created budget codes for all the CARES Act expenditures. And so we'll be able to look at the revenue and the expenditures for the CARES Act because you're only going to get what you spend. So we're tracking it very carefully because that was all brand new. The governor didn't really explain all that when he created the budget, that not only was he taking our foundation aid and replacing it with federal aid, but we were going to have to fill out applications to get that money and track those expenditures and report them in order to get that money. So he pretty much took your foundation aid away. So, which is again what he's proposing for next year.
And he made us fill out the applications and then made us fill them out again, right, Charlene? That was the ones we had.
Fill them all out, and there was a court case which was won, and so then they changed all the applications and we had to reapply all over again. And then they withheld the money. We just got our first payment, so.
We're getting a couple other things worried about right now.
We're getting to the brighter side of the rainbow, though, folks. That's what I would say.
Well, he's trying to do it again next year, so if he does, it's going to be the same thing all over again. Yeah.
Right.
Only
That's good. You have that line item ready for that, so that's good. Okay.
Yeah, this time he's going to steal your star payment.
Oh.
He's going to give you your foundation aid back and steal your star payment.
How Robin Hood of you.
So while we were discussing, I popped up the cafeteria profit and loss report.
Yeah, we're still showing a $7,000 net loss for the year. but our, what was our average meals per day? 204 for January. So it fell a little bit. It was 207 for December, but pretty consistent. We've been right around 201 for the year.
Yeah, and we have, for cafeteria news, we have done quite a bit of outreach, and we have been able to up the number of remote students who are taking meals. But really, it's by about 20 students, but 20 times 10 is 200 meals a week. So I want to give credit to Joy Glass and also to Eric Bush from the Cap region. Both of you all know Joy, and many of you all met Eric on the call here back earlier this year.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get the word out. So if you see people around, the meals are free to all, and we're working to get them out to folks. And we started delivering some as well for people who could not get up here. So they just need to reach out, and we're doing everything we can to make sure they have access to the school meals.
Yeah, it got mailed out with a BOCES envelope, which
Yeah.
So they paid for that that mailing.
So they did all the prep for the mailing. I'm going to mute Todd. They did all the prep for the mailing, and we paid for the mailing to go out. We put as many as we could in backpacks. I did discuss the cost of mailings with the Cap Region BOCES, and they get it, but they thought it was important that we send that one out by regular mail, so we did so. It made sense.
Is there a way of tracking what really caused the increase? Do you think the mailers made a difference? And I'm just curious to know, because we always want to make sure we get the word out with a lot of things, and we don't mail a whole lot anymore. But
yeah, so we mailed a week to 10 days after we put it on Facebook and our website. And so we had about 2/3 of the increase from the Facebook website and telephone call, and about 1/3 of the increase from the letters that went home.
Okay, so social media is still.
Yeah, it's quick. It's quicker, right? It's instant. People are on it. So that was where we ended up in round numbers, I would say.
Well, they get the double whammy because it goes to the rec page too. We have a lot of those parents that are on there, so I think that worked out well.
Oh, good.
Right.
At least we know we're making contact. But it was a discernible change, though, Dan. It was worth that outreach.
Yeah. It's if we can get that many extra meals a week, that makes a big difference. It'd be great if it was out of the 120 students who are full remote. It would be great if it was 50 of those students as opposed to the 18, but we're just not there yet. But it's still open to them, and if they reach out, we'll do our best to make it available to them.
Are you constantly reposting those things too? Just out of curiosity, because I'll do the same thing.
We run them back around again. We'll probably wait about 2 weeks,
Okay,
and then try to push it out again.
I'll do the same here.
Dan, is breakfast not included in this? I see there's no numbers for any of the breakfasts.
Yeah.
Is that included?
No, it's included in a number of meals. Hold on again.
Okay, how's our breakfasts going? Do you feel like there's enough quite a few people that make use of that?
So there's fewer consuming breakfast here at school. Anybody who picks up meals, we're providing both the breakfast and the lunch, but there are fewer that are eating breakfast here, especially up in the high school end of the building. But we have been trying to get things out in the hallways, like grab and go stuff. But we also have to be careful about students wanting to eat breakfast in their classrooms, because that means masks are off. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. If we can't get them in the cafeteria in the morning, it's tough to let them eat breakfast in their classrooms, because it does create a concern for people with masks being off.
And what time can they come in for breakfast in the morning prior to school?
7:30. So we're letting students in at 7:30. But once they're in, as we mentioned this summer, once you're in, you're in. You don't come in and grab a muffin and a milk and go back outside to hang with your friends, because then we have to screen you again. So once folks are in, that's what we have to do. Other questions on the cafeteria profit and loss? Was there any other documents that folks wanted to see?
What about the appropriation report? Were you going to show that?
Appropriations. Yep. Appropriation status. Right there. Can you see it right now, or do I have to bring it back up?
It's there.
Excellent. So appropriation status by budget code. So you can see what's left. This is one I always pick on, not pick on top, but I always point out that this is one that Todd asked a lot of questions about over the last few years. And it's great to see one of these reports that's up to date and operational for the board to have and for me to have each and every month. So I appreciate the work Charlene's putting in. Sharon, anything of note on here to point the board at, or just a general overview of anything?
Next month, again, you're going to see, I worked on a lot of budget transfers, and Dan allowed me to put them in as of February 28th. So you'll see them reflected in the next report. And so we're just looking at different accounts, since ones that are in the negative, and moving things around, make sure everything is covered. You have to do that as of June 30th, but really you should do it, every time you do a warrant, anything's in the negative, you really should move the money first. So we try to do it monthly. Sometimes we get a little bit behind, but I try to get caught up. So a lot of these negatives, you'll see all cleared up next time. We do have some money that we need to spend by the end of the year. I'm sure Dan will be taking care of that, just to maximize our state aid. So we have money in here for textbooks, library materials, computer hardware, and computer software. And so in order to maximize our state aid for next year, we'll probably be spending those before the end of the fiscal year. So. And
those are those 2630s, right, Charlene, that I just highlighted?
Yeah, you highlighted a few of them. I think textbooks is up in 2110.48.
2110, you are correct. But those will be expended before we get to the end of the year. Operationally, it's...
And the bus also, right?
Yep, I've got a couple of quotes on the van. Yep. We're working through it. My goodness, I can't remember. One of the ladies from FEH sent me a couple of Sharon's, sent me some bid sheets, and I went on and also built a couple of vans, and asked her, about what she thought about what I built. So we will be making that expenditure. We have to, as the board knows, the voters approved us to buy a van, and the one we have now is done well for us, but we cannot go without buying that van. So we are going to expend that money.
Charlene, page 5.
Yep.
9050 unemployment.
Yeah.
So benefits health insurance.
That's
not unemployment benefits. That's health insurance.
Up above. The total is below. So 9050.8 is your unemployment. Is very high. We only budgeted 54. We've had to adjust that 20,000. Right now we're at 75. So we have a little bit left that's encumbered, but that definitely saw some significant increases this year.
Yeah.
No, we do not have $1.8 million in unemployment claims.
That's a good thing.
No.
Yeah. Well, 75,000 is still a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's par for the course for many districts in our area. And there are some claims in there that we're working to clear up that are not valid claims. I'll say it that way. And that's every school district.
It's every company right now.
It's everybody. And
it's school districts, I think, proportionately harder, especially the higher earning salaries.
Right. So, other questions on that document?
I'm good. I don't know about my peers, but I'm good.
So we've got a full-fledged finance committee meeting coming up.
Yeah.
To talk about the budget. Is that I should have it right here in front of me, but I think it's next Monday.
It is Monday.
It is, yeah. So next Monday night. So Charlene's got some reports that she's been working on. I also asked her to do an estimated tax rate. And again, remember it's early and it's estimated, but we all are anxious to see what it looks like with that pilot, and with that new levy, with the Irving pilot money that we would have to get from a pilot check normally that we have to get through our levy added back in, and what that does to our tax rate. So you'll see that. You'll see that at that meeting. Sean, anything else from the financials that you wanted to bring forward, or board members, anything else from that? We've got a couple of minutes before we have to switch over to the meeting.
Yeah, if you want to share with them that tax rate and the fund balance and the a couple of the, the tax sheet, a couple of those things, I think it's important that they see those and have a time to digest it. Ask any questions, obviously, before,
Yeah, that's I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just said the sooner the better, the sooner we get it out there, the better. The more we talk about it, the better.
So Charlene, on this sheet, that taxable assessed value has the Irving pilot added back in, the 22 million.
That's correct.
And then it shows our levy amount. That's our tax cap limit, right? The 3392.
That's correct.
And then you can see, folks, that it results in a $27 and call it 19-cent tax rate this year per thousand. And you can see down in the smaller print, we were at 29.28 last year.
Yeah.
You can see that our tax rate, as we stand right now, is going to go down to about 7%. So again, it's preliminary, but we feel. I think that's a great place for us to be based on all the challenges we've had to face over the last few years.
Well, hell yeah, and that's a direct result of the Irving pilot, right?
It is, as well as the changes to spending that we had to put together this year.
Oh, of course, right.
I mean, it's both. It's the revenue, the taxable value, and it's all those pieces. So I want to make sure you put it out there.
Right, and that's at cap based on forecast 1. So forecast 1 is going to change, and we're still looking at all those numbers that I talked about at the last meeting. We did have a discussion with Michelle. We did go over the health insurance contributions. I haven't had a chance to work on them, but I have the numbers. I just haven't put them in yet. So we will be updating that. There's several things we still need to look at, but that was forecast 1, and that was at the cap.
So that's good news for folks.
Yeah.
And
a quick question: that the 22 million from Irving Tissue, the original pilot program was for 22 million for whatever 10 or however many years. So that's back on the assessment rolls. Is that frozen at 22 million, or are we gonna see any possible change in that?
so my understanding is that they're their right to question that assessment has not been taken away from them. But that pilot agreement was a negotiated agreement. So for certain, that's what we should have this year. However, based on what has occurred in Fort Edward over the last 5 years, I would just caution the board not to do 10-year plans based on $22 million. I think in the next year or two, when you see that reassessment happen in 2022, and they have that industrial appraiser come in and do the whole community, including the Irving property, I think then you'll get a true number. Although I believe when the pilot was awarded at 22 million, there was some discussion that property was actually worth more than that. But I caution you, and you know why I caution you. So right now we're showing that tax rate at 22 million. The final assessment rolls will be set over the summer after everybody goes through the review process. I think Ella still sits. You still sit on that board, Ella? So Ella still sits on that board. So we do have one of our members who is a part of that process. Not that changes how the process works, but it's certainly good for somebody from our board to be on there. Do I think it's going to be an 11 million assessment a couple of years from now? No, I do not. Do I want to tell you you've got 22 million in assessed value for the rest of the time that Fort Edward is around? I do not. I think you want to play it safe.
Dan, you and I spoke about this a month ago. I remember I called you, we had a long conversation about this whole thing, how it was going to play out. And you're right, their original, that 22 million was originally demonstrably more than that. And probably know what the number is as well as I do. But I went back before I called you, I went back and checked their track record. And their track record dictates that, yes, as most companies do when they come off the pilot, that's the normal process that they have. So you're right, don't count that 22 million as being in the bag. And again, you and I spoke about this a month ago. I just wanted to make sure everybody else is aware that that may not be a frozen number.
Well, James, it also might prompt us to start to talk about tax cert if we think it's going to go
Yeah, absolutely.
away and not get caught again with an empty purse. So yeah.
Well, you
Vacant. We have to
can't,
replenish.
you can't fund a tax cert until a tax cert is filed.
Yeah.
Right. So we can, yeah, but we can still. I get you. I get you.
Yep.
So the earliest you'd be able,
Right.
earliest you could do that would be next budget year after if there was a claim that came in this summer, right? That's
Yeah, we can reserve some money though, right? I mean, there's
No.
a million of the reserves.
no, not unless you
The
have,
next one for this past one.
It's
not
gone.
unless you have claims. You can't reserve it ahead of time.
Right.
So-
Next year for this past year. Right.
If they file a tax cert by July 1, or is it July 1 or August 1?
Yeah, usually they're coming July 1. Yes.
If they file a tax cert in July 1, you can put the money in a reserve up till June 30th of that year. So usually in June, we're looking at fund balance. That's when I make the recommendation to fund the cert at whatever rate the board decides to fund it at. Because they ask for a certain amount, and that, so you get all the packet of what they're asking and what the value is and what the county thinks it is. And so you get lots of different numbers, and you figure out what you think your liability might be, and then what you're willing to put away.
Okay.
Right.
So that's not going to
And-
happen until after the fact. Okay.
Right, and just a little bit of history, because we've got some board members who've been here for a little bit longer than others, and certainly Charlene's not new to us, but relatively new in the course of the last big tax cert that we've been through. Every year we were having conversations with our attorneys as well, and this predates even me. Troy was having those conversations before me, saying, "Okay, what's our maximum liability?" Because our attorney allowed us to keep that money in after a year because the liability was still there, and actually it was growing every single year. And we all know that when we got to the end, we had about $4 million in liability, and we only had about $2 million saved,
1.9. Yeah.
which was not a great place to be. But that's behind us now. It's still part of our budget moving forward, but that is behind us. So Charlene had a few other documents, and they're in there. It is 6:30 now. Charlene, do you want to talk to your?
I just like to see this one. I'd like to see that you get your reserves. If we do have a surplus for the end of this year, which I think we will, I'd like to see you to restore your reserves. So your reserves are pretty much of nothing now, and I'd like to see you to restore them back to the June 30th, 2019 levels and get yourself on sound financial footing. So I've given you where you are now. Our use this year, the interest you can see is virtually nothing for the year. I'd like to see the board resolution in June reestablishing or refunding these reserves to bring our levels back up to the June 30th, 2019 levels. And this is my recommendation.
And that's part of planning for longevity, folks. It's
Sure.
got to happen. It's got
This
to
is
happen.
the document that we have to do for your property tax report card that is done in April. So
Well, it's nice to know we're going to have some pocket change to put in there, so it's good.
And how much is that you're looking at? Is that 440? Is that the number that we're looking at that we put aside for that?
no, it, board resolution to fund the reserves is the 735,000. That's what I'm recommending
Okay.
you put into your reserves, so that you're in the yellow will be your balance, and actually you're going to use 27,000 out of your Evelar, so that's why that's yellow. You have one retirement, so if we use the reserve, the Evelar reserve for that retirement, it'll be $27,000 less than that. So you're going to have some reserve retirements coming up. I've looked at who's eligible, and at $27,000 a pop, you've got to fund that. You've got to get that Evelar reserve back up there, because we're using it now, and you need to keep it healthy. So the 440 is 4%, and I do not recommend that you leave your fund balance at 4%, even though that's the law, and that is because of the federal funding replacing your STAR fund, state funding this year. And so next year, when that federal funding goes away, you are going to have a major problem, and you're going to want money in your fund balance.
So you can see the recommendation that's coming to a meeting near you in the next couple of months, as long as our financials hold true to our projections and so be prepared for that to be a resolution on the June meeting.
Great. All right, let's get over to the other meeting. Folks are probably waiting over there.
Yep, I'm going to stop this recording at this time, and I'll see everybody on the other side.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Sean.